Hi there and welcome, you Dutch grammar lover. Well, grammar is part of the Dutch language, unfortunately, and you might have seen words like you see appearing here. Ervan, daarop, waarmee, hieraan, ernaar, daarbij, hierover, daarvoor, and many other variations where you see the hier and the daar and the combined with all sorts of words like van, naar, bij, op, etc., etc. So in this video we're going to learn about these words, how they are used, how you should use them, and what challenges will be there for you to use them and to translate them into English. Well, your English into Dutch. Now, before we start through things, this presentation is also on my website, so if you want to check it out, there's a link in the description, and on my website there are also some exercises so you can practice what you've learned. And the second announcement, well, there is a shorter version of this video with fewer explanations and fewer details that you can see appearing out there. So if you're looking for a very short and brief explanation, check it out there. This one, as you can see from the length of the video, is quite a long one. So we're going to learn it very, very slowly and basically, but it's important because it's not easy to understand. And because it's not easy to understand, we're going to start with the English language. In English, there are words like about, with, from, to, and at, and these words usually stand with something else. For example, I'm talking about the new series, about the new series. And the new series is with about. Or I'm with my father. With stands with my father. And these words are called prepositions. So, and as you know, sometimes when you're talking in English, you add that, this, and it to, about, with, from, or to. For example, I'm talking about that, or I'm coping with this. And in English, you just add the two words together, you're saying them together, and there's no problem, and it's easy. However, in Dutch, when you're adding such a preposition to that, this, or it, something really strange happens. And what's happening? This dot will be put in front of the preposition, in this case about, and it will become that about. And here with this will become this with. And from it will become it's from. Oh, okay. And on top of that, this, that, this, and it will change a little bit. So now let's take a look at the version in Dutch. Over dat means about that, literally. So over is about and dat is that. If you're using these words, as said before, you're going to put the dot just in front of over and the dot is going to change. And the result is daarover. You recognize the over here, over or about remains the same, but the dot becomes a daar. Whew. And if you're not following, if this is a little bit too quickly, we will see many more examples. This is just for you to understand, to grasp the concept of what's happening with these words. All right, so we're going to see more examples in just a bit. So if you're not following, no problem. Dat becomes daar, and over is put at, or is put behind the dot. With dit, this, it becomes even more strange. The dit is put in front of the met, as you can see here. The me, the met changes it into me. About that we'll talk more later on. And the dit is changing into a hier, which is completely different. It doesn't resemble at all to dit. So that is what happens when you're saying with this. It becomes hier, me. And how do you say from it? Well, van het, but the het will be put in front of the van, it will be pasted to the van, and it will become So in the end, it's ervan. You can do this with other prepositions as well. I made these examples here for you. So you can use met dat, it will become daarmee, and naar het will become something else, ernaar. All right. Now we're going to focus a little bit on this het, see some sample sentences for you to better understand the het. So the preposition, de overmet van haar, plus it. How does that work? Well, for example, you're saying, I'm looking at the house. Ik kijk naar het huis. You can see there's a preposition here, naar, this at. Well, that's a preposition. However, when you're asking a question, are you looking at the house? When you're replying, you will be replying, I'm looking at it. You're not going to say, well, are you looking at the house? Well, yes, I'm looking at the house. You're not going to repeat this, the house. You're going to say it, because it's shorter and everybody knows you're talking about the house. How do you translate it into Dutch? Well, ik kijk ernaar. Ha. So, ik kijk is the same, I'm looking, and then the naar is this preposition, and as we've seen before, this it or this het, let's go back up a little bit, this het will turn into an and will be pasted to the preposition, and that's exactly what happens here. Ik kijk ernaar. Not naar het, that's wrong. Ik kijk ernaar. Cool. Another example. She's talking about it. You can see here, about is a preposition, the it is there, so you're going to use the and you're going to paste it to the preposition. Obviously here we have no idea what she's talking about. For example, the context will need to show what she's talking about. Have you heard of the new film? Yeah, she's talking about it. And then the it is the film. And in Dutch, as you know now, this about will be put behind the it. So the it will be pasted here. It will become it about. Ze spreekt erover. The het turns into an Good. Last example. We're sitting next to it. We zitten ernaast. Next to, naast, it. Oh, well, it turns into an and is pasted in front of ernaast. Good. So, a little side note, some verbs take, like spreken or kijken, usually take the same preposition here, naar, and then typically it would become ik kijk ernaar. Zitten, you can sit in or you can sit with or something. So the preposition will sometimes be different. If you're saying we're sitting in it, then it will become we zitten erin. So it depends on the verb or what you want to say. some verbs will usually take the same preposition. For example, kijken will usually be with naar. Cool. So that's a preposition with it. Remember, it is put in front of the preposition and it turns into an and then the preposition. We're going to take a look at the same examples, but now with this. And how do you say this in Dutch? Well, it's dit. I'm looking at this house. Ik kijk naar dit huis. And what happens with this? Well, the this does not turn into an like het. It turns into a hier. I'm looking at this. Ik kijk hier naar. At preposition naar. So I will put the hier in front of the naar. Ha. Next example, she's talking about this. Ze spreekt hierover. She talks about this. Hierover. This about this turns into a hierover. And we're sitting next to this. We zitten hiernaast. Cool. Then let's take a look at preposition plus that. That is dat. So, ik kijk naar dat huis. I'm looking at that house. I'm looking at that. The that turns into a daar and is pasted to the preposition naar. She's talking about that. Ze spreekt daarover, about, over, that, pasted in front of the over. We're sitting next to that. Again, this that, but there instead of hier or because you're referring to that, it's a daarnaast. And maybe you've already seen this kind of thing. Maybe you know daarna, and you struggle to understand what daarna actually meant. For example, in this phrase, na de les ga ik naar huis, daarna ga ik slapen. After the lesson, I'm going home, and after, I'm going to sleep. And this na de les, na is a preposition, na de les is a na, but here daarna, it means after that, after going home, after that, so the fact that you're going home, it is daarna, because there's na, after I'm going home, we're going to replace it by that, after that I've gone home, you simply add the daar to the na, and it turns into daarna. Cool. And here you use na after the lesson because it stands with something. The les, and it's not a het, it's not a that, it's not a this. So you simply keep the na, and this daarna, this daar replaces after that. So you might have already known that. Good. We're going to take a look at 7 comments, I think, about this little structure. And the first comment is that there are no big differences between daarover, hierover, and erover. It's just, ze spreekt daarover, it emphasizes a little bit the dat, or the that. So if you say ze spreekt erover, or you say ze spreekt daarover, there's not a big difference between those 2 words. Good. Comment number 2 is a little trickier. Comment number 2 is they split. Oh, and what do you mean by they split? Well, words like daarnaast, daarover, daarnaar, and hierover, and all the other ones, they can split up. Let's take a look at an example, or at some examples. I'm looking at this for a long time. Ha. Ik kijk hier lang naar. Wait, what? What is this? Well, the I'm looking is simply ik kijk. At this, now you know this, naar dit. This is naar dit, literally, but in Dutch, no. This turns into a hier. You can see it here. Ik kijk hier naar, it would be. Ik kijk hier naar. However, if you're using other words after this at this, here for a long time, in Dutch it's a little simpler, it's just lang. For a long time means lang. If you're using some other words here, you will have to put them between the hier and the naar. Oh my god, this is complicated. And yes, on top of this hiernaar being really, really weird, you have to put other words in between them. Yes. And that is very confusing because if you're looking at, say you didn't watch this video and you've never heard of this hier and the daar, I'm looking here long to. That doesn't really sound right. No, it means I'm looking at this for a long time. So it's kind of hard to translate. So remember, if you have this hiernaar, daarnaar, daarover, etc., they can split up. Another example, she's talking about it at home. So, ze spreekt, she's talking about it erover. The over, the goes in front of the about. And it should be pasted to it. It would be erover in one word, it about. But there's a word here, there's a combination of words here, that needs to be put in between them. Good. In some cases you can put these words at the end, but you can always put them in between. So it's better to put them in between to make it more simple. And last example, we're not sitting next to that. We zitten daar niet naast. We're not sitting. This niet is a word that in Dutch is behind the daarnaast. And well, it's just another word, and it's even a little more complicated because in English you're going to put it there, but it belongs in between the daar and the naast. We're sitting there, not next to. We're not sitting next to that. If there's more than one word, I can add it here. Ze spreekt thuis niet over. You can simply add more words there. She doesn't talk about it at home. So you can add the thuis there. Or well, you can add the niet there. Sorry. So, they split. Comment number 3. When they split, you can put the first part up front, but not For example, same sentence as here. Ik kijk hier lang naar. I'm looking at this for a long time. You can put the hier in front. Hier kijk ik lang naar. Ik kijk hier lang naar. Hier kijk ik lang naar. And there's inversion because there's a word in front here. Hier kijk ik lang naar. You have to put ik behind the kijk. So yeah, you can put the word either behind the verb or in front. Another example. She's talking about it at home. Ze spreekt thuis over. The can it go up front? No. Only hier and daar can go up front. The is not allowed to go up front in this case when you're using it combining with a preposition. Cool? So, ze spreekt thuis over. She's talking about it at home. The is going to remain there in the middle of the sentence. sample sentence with daar. Same as here, we're not sitting next to that. Daar zitten we niet naast. Okay, so remember, you can put this hier and daar up front and split it all up, but not Whew. That's quite a bit to digest, so if you want to come back to the video later on, feel free. You don't need to watch this till the end. I know it's a lot to take and it takes a lot of time to really understand and to use it properly, but this is one of those things you really gotta understand. And there's no other way to say these words. If you want to say she's talking about it at home, you will have to use this and you will have to put this thuis in between the two. You don't have to use the hier at the front of the sentence, but you do have to use hier. I'm looking at this to express hiernaar. So there's no choice. But hey, we're learning, and I'm really happy you're still following this video. It's very courageous of you. So comment number 4. That's something we've seen before. Met. When you're combining met with daar, or hier, then met is going to turn into mee. Mee, with it, or with that, it would become daarmee, or with this, it becomes hiermee. And tot, I made a little mistake here, tot becomes to. It's used less frequently than met. It means until, or here in the combination with beperken, zich beperken tot, it means to limit yourself to something. This tot will become a toe. Okay, so plus met becomes mee. Comment number 5 is pretty obvious, but it's important to note when you're talking about persons, that's not that, this, or it. You simply use the personal pronoun like haar, hem, mij, jou, etc., etc. That's an easy comment. That was easier than comment number 2 and 3 about the splitting up and then things changing in all kinds of directions. Now, one important comment here about that. You're looking at the sentence here, we spreken over dat probleem. You're like, hey, Alain, you said about that. That's daarover. You cannot, why is this like this? Dat should be in front of the over and it should become daarover. What is going on here in this sentence? Well, in this sentence, the that stands with problem. That problem. And in this case, if there is a noun, if there's something standing with that or this, then you're going to simply keep this dat, because this dat is not dat probleem together. We're talking about that. Indeed, it will become we spreken daarover, but here dat probleem. The dat stands with probleem, so you cannot replace dat probleem just by daarover. Well, actually you could, but in this case, to translate that problem together, you have to say dat probleem. We're talking about dat probleem. Same so for this, we spreken over dit probleem. If I put it just there, here, dit probleem. We're talking about this problem. The over will not change into hierover because it stands with dit probleem. The previous ones, if we take a look at them, let's go up. She's talking about it, or she's sitting next to that. you're not saying here we're sitting next to that chair, because then if you would put that chair, then we're going to use dat. We zitten niet naast dat of die stoel. Alright? Good. So, we spreken over dat probleem. And a last comment. Before we start with the waar, we're not done yet. The last comment here is an important one, because in English some verbs do not take a preposition, whereas in Dutch they do take a preposition. For example, watching is kijken naar. However, in English you're not using a preposition here, we're watching it. But in Dutch, as you know, naar is with kijken, so we have to use ernaar instead of we kijken het. Good? So that's something to pay attention to. Alright, let's quickly recap. So, you can see them on the website. The link is in the description below to review this. So prepositions stand with that, this, and it. What happens? The dat, dat, dit, het gets in front of the preposition and changes a little bit. Het, it becomes here. Het becomes dit becomes hier. And dat becomes daar. Okay? Cool. And then there are no big differences between them. They split up if there's a word that's in the sentence. It can be put in between. Put it in between the hier and the naar. You can even put the daar and the hier up front. Met en tot turn into me and to. Do not use it with people. This, that, and it are no people. And if it stands with another noun, the dat can remain there. And some verbs in English do not have prepositions, so there's a little surprise here from the marvelous Dutch language. You can put them. You can have some prepositions that you need to apply accordingly. Cool. Again, exercises. Check out my website. And we're going to start with waar. Waar is a little different from the and the hier and the daar, but some principles are exactly the same. That's why it's very interesting to learn this waar too. If you're asking the question in English, what are you waiting for? Well, what are you waiting for? You would think, wat wacht je op? Op is the different preposition. So here, for, wachten op is waiting for. Why in anyone's name is wat becoming a waar here? I mean, it should be what, right? What are you waiting for? Wat wacht je op? And no. If you're using what in combination with another preposition, then the what will turn into a waar. Plus, you can paste them together. Waar wacht je op is the same sentence as waarop, and I'll put it in bold here, waarop wacht je. Oh my. Yes, and it's a little bit the same principle as this dat plus op. It will become daarop. Okay, so when you're asking a question, you will have to look at the preposition that stands with the verb. If there is no verb, then you don't need to change anything. But if there's a preposition, you have to change this what into a waar. and I didn't write another example here without the what, so I'll quickly make up one. What are you doing? Here, do you see preposition like for, with, or to, etc.? No. So the what will simply be kept like this. So, what do you? There you go. So no preposition, we keep the what. Preposition, then we're going to change the what into a waar. That is the first case in which we use waar instead of wat. Cool. Another example, what are you sitting next to? Waar zit je naast? Here again you can simply add the naast to the zit je, so it would become waar naast zit je. And again, if you're talking about people, use wie instead of waar. So op wie wacht je? And in English, this preposition will be at the end, but in Dutch it's in front here with the wie. For example, if you would be saying who are you watching, then it would become naar wie kijk je. So preposition and then the wie and then the rest of the sentence. This is the first case where you use waar plus a preposition, and then you simply have to use waar. However, there is another use of waar where you're going to combine this waar with a preposition, and that is subclauses. And I made a little mistake here. Subordinate clauses. And what are these subclauses? What kind of phenomenon is that? Well, if you're combining two sentences, dat is de man, that's the man, ik zie de man, I see the man, you can, in English, just like in Dutch, combine those two sentences. You can turn it into one sentence, and it becomes, that's the man I see. That is the man, I see the man, that's the man I see. Good. So, what does it look like in Dutch? And we're already at the first comment. That's the man I see. Dat is de man die ik zie. Oh, die. Why is this die appearing here? In English, there is no die. What is going on there? In Dutch, if you have a subclause, if you're combining two sentences, you always have to use some kind of introductory word to combine those two sentences. That's the man that I see. And in English, that's a little optional, but it isn't in Dutch. So you have to always use a die here or another word. Okay, then we're going to go to comment number 2. If in the second sentence, that's the man I'm waiting for, if there is a preposition of the verb here, if the verb stands with a preposition, you will have to use this preposition to make this little word that belongs in the middle of the sentence. And here, that's the man I'm waiting for, the for will be in the middle and between the two sentences. Dat is de man op wie ik wacht. And the wie, why is it the wie here? Because we're talking about a person, then we're going to use wie. Same as for the questions, if you remember. Op wie wacht je? Who are you waiting for? First the preposition and then wie. Here, dat is de man op wie ik wacht. Okay? So, if there's a subclause, you need a little word in between. If in the second sentence, so that's the man I'm waiting for. That's the man, that's the main part of the two sentences. Here you're talking about the man. You're saying something, or you're giving some information about the man that I am waiting for. If there is a preposition, you have to use the preposition in front of this little sentence. If there is no preposition here, I see there's no preposition, use other words like die or dat. Depending on the word you're talking about here, de man will be die because it's a de word, and if it's het, then you'll use dat. Dat is het boek, the book with het. Dat ik zie, that I see. In English, first of all, there's no preposition, but here you have to know if it's the word you're talking about is a de word or a het word. All right. Now, here we're talking about a person. If it is not a person, if it's an object, for example, we're watching the series we're talking about the series. The series, that's not an object. No, it is an object. That's not a person. So then, if it's not a person, we're going to use, instead of this wie, a waar. And as we've seen with the questions, this waar will be put in front of the preposition. We kijken naar de serie waarover jullie spreken. Oh my god. In English, you don't need to say anything, but in Dutch, you do need to use this waarover. Why? Because the talking has a preposition, and you have to put the waar in front of the about, so it becomes waarover. Well, that's not easy. And indeed, it isn't easy. But in Dutch, as we said, you need to start a subclause with some word that introduces the subclause. If you're combining those two sentences, there needs something in between. It can also be because, like omdat, but here there's no because, so you have to use this one. And can you simply say dat? We kijken naar de serie dat jullie spreken. No, there's a preposition here. So then, if there's a preposition, you have to use waarover. Okay, good. Just like with the questions and the daar and the hier, there's comment number 4. There's a surprise. Waar can split up. You don't need to split it up, but it can. Here, we're watching the series you're talking about. It's the same sentence as here. Watching the series that you're talking about, you can also split it up. We kijken naar de serie waar jullie over spreken. And to the nitpickers out here who are really focused on details, you're like, hey, but isn't this over supposed to be at the end? Before we've seen in this video, daar spreken jullie over. The over is at the end, and here the over is not at the end. There's spreken there, and that's correct. If you're into Dutch word order, you will know, or you won't know, that in a subclause in the second sentence the verbs go at the end. So, and this precedes the rule of this over going at the end. So, and spreken is a verb, so it goes at the end. All right. Good. Comment number 5. Strange translations. In English, there are many ways to combine these two sentences. For example, that's the company for which I'm working. You can use for which here, but in Dutch, this isn't really done. You have to check, is there a preposition? And if there's a preposition, use the waarvoor or voor wie if it's a person. Here we're talking about a company, so you have to use waarvoor. Good. This is the, well, I'm sorry I have to say it, but this is the easiest way to do it. I know it's not easy, but that's the easiest way. Good. So for which, for whom, etc., or with whom, check. There's two sentences. Is there a preposition at the end of this second sentence? Then use this preposition here in between, in combination with waar if it's an object, bedrijf, and wie if it's a person. All right. Now we're going to take a look at another comment, and I believe it's the not the last one, but yeah, there's 7 comments per for each one. So waar or the others. So we're almost at the end. Good. Waar or the others. When do you use daarover and hierover, and when do you use waarover? That's a good question. For example, we're watching the series, you're talking about that series. We kijken naar de serie, jullie spreken daarover. Or daarover spreken jullie here. I will make it a little more clear, just to show how it could be confusing. Daarover spreken jullie. Oh, that's not in bold. Oh my god. There you go. Daarover spreken jullie. And here, we're watching the series, you're talking about, we kijken naar de serie, waarover jullie spreken. What is the difference between daarover and waarover here? Well, there is a very, very small one. If you're combining two sentences, if you're making two sentences, if you're turning them into one, then you're going to use waarover. Here you see a dot here. So then clearly you're going to have to use daarover, about that. Or yeah, maybe I should remove the series here. You're talking about that. Or you're talking about that series. So this daarover, here there's a clean break between two. However, if you're putting a comma, kijk naar series, waarover jullie spreken, or if you're pausing when you're talking, then it becomes less clear. So then you have some leeway. There are some possibilities here to change the daarover into the waarover. But remember, waarover, the verb goes at the end. So daarover spreken jullie. That's just inversion. All right. Ready for the last comment? Verbs without prepositions plus in the middle. Oh, there's 2 comments for the price of just 1. Be reminded, we've already seen it, some verbs do not have a preposition in English, but they do have one in Dutch. The city you love, in Dutch that's houden van. So then you have to adapt, you have to use this van to use it in 2 different sentences. And an important one here, you can put this subclause sometimes in the middle of the sentence, so it doesn't need to be like first my main sentence, second my second sentence. No, here the stad waarvan je houdt is in the middle. This little subclause is in the middle of the sentence. Good. So, if we briefly review this waar, if you're asking a question and there's a preposition added to the verb in the question, use waar. You can split it up or you can decide just to put it in one word. If you're talking about people, use wie, and then the preposition will be in front and the wie behind, contrary to this waar, where the waar will be up front and the op will be behind. There are some subclauses. You always have to use a little word to introduce a subclause in Dutch. If you're talking about a person, again, put the preposition first and then the we after. If you're talking about objects, here, this was a person. If you're talking about something that is not a person, then use waar over or waar plus the preposition that can split up. Do not make things more complicated than they are, and they're already enough complicated. Simply use waarvoor if you see for which or other combinations. When choosing between daarover and waarover or daaraan or waaraan or any other preposition, it depends on how much there's of a break in between two sentences here. Some verbs in Dutch have prepositions where English verbs do not have prepositions. They still have to do this little construction. Plus, the subclause doesn't need to be at the end. It can also be in the middle. Good. Head over to my website, and the link is in the description below, to do some exercises to this very difficult part of the Dutch grammar. You will also find a link to my book, Intermediate Dutch Grammar, with exercises to do more of these exercises and to have a written explanation of this. All right. Very well done. You're at the end of the video. You've stayed focused, I hope, at the end of the video. If there are any questions, feel free to write them in the comments. I'm really looking forward to them. If you see a word you're really unfamiliar with, like hier and some other preposition that are pasted, feel free to write it in the comments, and I'll try to reply to them in a way that you can understand what you've seen. So again, go to the exercises, buy my book with more exercises, and see you on my website. Bye bye.